there, it's Nina here with Walla Stamping. Thanks for joining me today. So, a friend of mine named Carol had asked me if I would consider doing a project with the Heartfelt Blooms stamp set. And I asked her what she had in mind, and she said that she would love to see a 3D project and preferably something in a shadow box. So this is what I've come up with. I decided to create something that is displayable, that looks kind of like a picture frame, and I've got a couple of different ideas here. This one I did just in gray and white, and I just stamped this image on a piece of Whisper White and just put it inside the shadow box. And I like it, but I wanted to kind of ramp it up just a little bit. So on this one, I did a black frame with a basic gray background. I stamped my image on Whisper White, but then I fussy cut it out, and then I stamped the center flower again and cut that out because I wanted it to have more dimension. I like this one better because it just suits my personality. So I'm going to show you how to make this shadow box frame today, as well as the image on the inside. So let's jump on in and get this project going. Here I wanted to give you a little bit closer look at these projects before we get started. And as you can see, this one here I feel is very one-dimensional, and I think that it's fine if you want to do something and just keep it really simple. This one works for me, but I really love this one and the fact that I have these popped up off the background, and because of the shadows that you get, it makes it look even more three-dimensional. Then let me pop this over on the back. What I've done is I've created this little easel here. So when you give it as a gift, if someone wants to display it, they can just open that up, kind of like you would a picture frame from any store, and they can sit it on their desk or wherever they want to sit it up to be able to look at it. So we're going to be doing this one today, but like I said, I'm going to change the background color to white instead of gray. I just think it will make this pop even more. Now this is the stamp set that I'm going to be using. It's actually a celebration stamp set. So when you shop during celebration, with every $50 purchase that you make, you get to choose a celebration item. So if you ordered $50 in product before tax and shipping, you would get this stamp set for free with your order. So for the frame, I'm using basic black. This is cut to 8.5 by 8.5, and then for the little easel piece to be able to sit this up and look at it, another piece of basic black, 3 by 2.5. I have a couple of pieces of some Whisper White here that I'm going to stamp my image on. I just cut these to 3 by 3, but you just need a scrap piece of paper. And then for the background, I'm going to be using Whisper White. This is cut to 4 3/8 by 4 3/8. The ink that I'm going to use today is Wisteria Wonder and some Smoky Slate. And then for the adhesive, I'm actually going to be using my tear and tape. The first thing that we're going to do is our scoring. So I'm going to put my paper in, and I'm going to score at every 1/2 inch up to the 2-inch mark, and I'm going to do that all the way around. So it's super duper simple. Score at 1/2 of an inch, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, and 2 inches. Turn your paper, do that again, and this will be repeated all the way around your cardstock until all 4 sides have 4 score lines on them. Alright, so I've got all of those score lines completed. So now what you'll want to do is come in here at the 2.5 inch score line, and you're going to score down to the second horizontal score line and stop there. Then come over to the 6-inch mark and do that again. Score only down to the second score line. You're going to turn and do this on all 4 sides. So now what we're going to do is, as you can see, all of these score lines, every side is the same. You've got your 4 score lines going horizontal, and then you'll have these 2 short score lines, and that's all the way around. So at this point, it doesn't really matter where you start doing your cutting. We're going to do this side and this side the same, and then this side and this side will be different from this one, but these will mimic each other. So let's start out. I'm going to cut down this short score line, stopping where it stops at the second horizontal. Then I'm going to come over to the very next score line and cut up to the fourth horizontal. Move over to the next score line and cut up to the fourth horizontal. So then when you get to that point, what you'll have left right here, hopefully you can see, is 12 little squares. We do not want those. So this little score line right here that is beside the short one, you're just going to cut straight up that score line and cut away those 12 small little squares. So this we're going to get rid of. Now we're going to come to this third score line from the end and cut that off, so that's going to be a little tab. And then this short score line we're going to cut right across and then cut that little piece away. Then when we get done with that, you're going to want to wedge this out, because these little tabs are going to form the very beginning of our box. So again, let's do that one more time. Cut straight up that short score line, stopping where it stops. Cut up the very next one, stopping at the fourth horizontal. Cut up the next one, stopping at the fourth horizontal. Then you have those 12 little squares. We're going to cut those away. Then we're going to cut on this third score line right here, leaving ourselves a tab, and then cut on that little score line right there, and then wedge out our tag, our little tab. So then you'll want to come right in here, and on this very last little tab that we have right here, the long skinny one, just put a little wedge on each one of those. So we're going to turn it around to the opposite side, and we're going to cut this side to look just like this side. So now we have these two sides cut identically. We need to do a little bit of trimming on these two sides, and this is how you'll do that. Cut straight down this little short score line, stopping where it stops, which will be at the second horizontal. And then what you're going to do is you're going to cut diagonally from this point over to this point. So I've got my scissors in there, and I'm just going to cut straight across just like that. You'll do the same thing over here. Cut up that short score line, stopping at the second horizontal. Turn your scissors at that point and cut straight across just like that. So this is what you're going to be left with when you get that done. So now we're going to flip this around and do the same thing over here. Now take your bone folder and go ahead and fold and burnish all of your score lines. Okay, so this is what will be the outside of our shadow box. The first thing that I want to do is take my tear and tape, and I'm going to put a piece on each of these little small tabs right here. Next, I'm going to run a piece of my tear and tape right alongside that score line. So we've got our adhesive out here. I like to take my bone folder and rub it back and forth across the adhesive backing, just to make sure that that adhesive is stuck down really well, and it'll make it easier to take that backing off. Now I'm going to flip this around to the inside, and where all of these diagonal lines are that we cut, I'm going to put a piece of tear and tape just along beside those diagonal cut lines. Now we'll start to assemble. So what I'm going to do first is take the adhesive backing off of these little tabs right here, and this is where we're going to start to form our box. So let's tuck that in and line that folded edge up with the cut edge and start forming our shadow box. Now my piece of Whisper White cardstock that was cut to 4 3/8 by 4 3/8, we're going to go ahead and adhere that into the bottom. I'm just going to use my tear and tape. If you would rather use Snell or Fast Fuse or liquid glue, that's fine. But since I have my tear and tape out, I'm just going to go ahead and use that. Alright, so I've got my basic shadow box ready to go. Let's go ahead and assemble. So I've got these two pieces that have the adhesive on those diagonals back out of my way. I'm going to remove the adhesive on this one, and if you'll notice, where this one has the diagonal cut, this one is squared off because that area is going to lay on top of this area. Now I have found that the easiest way for me to get these adhered into place correctly is right here on this second score line from that cut edge. I fold that just like that and make sure that that cut raw edge is right down in the corner, and then I just gently fold that down into place. And I like to kind of wiggle it back and forth just a little bit to hopefully get that adhesive stuck down really well. Then I'm going to come to the other side and do that again. So fold on that second score line, get that cut edge down in there, then fold it down, get that stuck down. I've got a little bit of a tear in my paper right there. I'm just going to tuck that under. Now we're going to stick these other parts down. So I'm going to remove the adhesive from my angled cuts right here. And then I'm also going to remove the adhesive from this part. Then when you get ready to do this, you'll want to get that tucked under just like we did on the other two pieces. Start folding it in, and as you fold it in, just make sure that you're getting your corners nice and neatly lined up. Get all that stuck into place. And there you have your shadow box ready to have something pretty put inside. Alright, let me go ahead and show you how to make the little easel part for the back. And then we'll do the stamping and get the other part ready. So this is my 3 by 2.5 piece of cardstock. I've got it in on the 3-inch side. I'm going to score at 1/2 inch right there. Then what I'm going to do is where I just put that score line, I'm going to line that up with the center line down my scoreboard. And I'm going to turn it so that this corner and the edge of that score line is lined up. And then I'm just going to score diagonally, just like that. Then I'm going to slide this up into the corner of my scoreboard. There's my 1/2 inch score, there's my diagonal. This is the 2.5 mark. I'm going to count back 3/8 of an inch, which will put me at 2 1/8, and I'm just going to make a little mark right there. Then you don't have to do this, you can just use your scissors, but if you don't trust yourself, then line that little dot that you just made with your stylus up with that line, and then line your little 1/2 inch score line up with your center line here and score. And so what you're going to do now is take your scissors and just cut right along that line you just made. Then I'm going to fold this over, and as you can see, I've got that sticking down there. I'm just going to cut right alongside there and get those even. Again, I've got my tear and tape out. That's just what I'm going to use for adhesive. So I'm going to stick this together. I don't like that sharp point, so I'm just going to come in with my scissors and just cut that point off just like that. And if you would like to take it a step further, you could take a corner rounder and round this if you want to, or you can just leave it like this. So I'm going to put a piece of my tear and tape right here. I'm going to turn my shadow box over. And when you put this on the back, you do not want to line it up so that this edge is even with the bottom, because that's not going to allow you to sit it up and look at it like you want to. You want to take this little 1/2 inch flat section and line that up along the bottom, and then stick it down straight up and down like that. So that way it'll stay closed like this until you present it as a gift, and then when that person wants to sit it up, they can do just like that and have that sitting up on their desk. Now let's get to doing our stamping. So I'm going to be using my Misty today. The Stamparatus has not come to me yet. I won't get mine until probably March or April. So in the meantime, I'm just going to be using my Misty. The reason that I'm using the Misty is because I'm going to be stamping this image more than once. And because I cut my paper at 3 inches, I'm just going to put my stamped image right here like this, at an angle. If you don't want to stamp it that way, then just make this piece of paper a little bit bigger. You could do it at 3.5 by 3.5 or even 4 by 4. So I'm going to start out with my Smoky Slate ink. Let me slide this over so you can see everything I'm doing. And because my Smoky Slate needs to be re-inked and I don't have a re-inker, I'm going to end up having to stamp this 2 to 3 times. You can of course do these in any color that you want to, but this is just the color combination that I've chosen for today. And if you use Smoky Slate and yours is inked up better than mine, you shouldn't have to stamp this probably more than once. And therefore you could just use an acrylic block instead of having to use a stamp positioner. But mine is about dry. Alright, so I've got that stamped a 3rd time. Now I like that, but I want to give it some shading. What I'm going to do is use some Wisteria Wonder now. So I'm going to get this open. And I'm going to be using a sponge dauber. So on mine, this little flower right up here in the corner, I really like putting some color on that. And I'm just taking my sponge dauber with that Wisteria Wonder on it and dabbing it into place where I want that ink to go, stamp it down, and see how it darkens that up. Then if I want to darken it up just around the edges, I can just place some more of that Wisteria Wonder just around the edges. So what I'm going to be doing is adding some shadowing here and there. I'm going to speed the video up and just let you watch what I'm doing, and then I'll discuss it a little bit more after I've completed it. Okay, so let me point out what I've done. I've added some shadowing down in here on the leaves. I've darkened that up, shadowing out here and in these flowers that are kind of what I consider to be tucked into the background. Then I added some darker shadowing just around the outside. I'm going to restamp this again, and I'm going to cut out just this flower, and the places that I'm not going to cut will be some areas like, say for example, this petal that I want it to look like it is shoved to the background, and these 2 petals here that are definitely showing me that they are tucked in behind those. So I'm just going to focus on the lighter areas of this flower. So let's get that one stamped. So I have my 2 images stamped. This is the one that I'm going to cut out just the flower, and this is the one that I'm going to cut out the whole thing. I'm just going to use my scissors and just do fussy cutting. Alright, I've got all of that cut out now, and what I like to do is take the ink that's left on my sponge dauber, just come in around all the edges and fill that in. Just be a little cautious when you're around those little fragile pieces sticking up on that flower there. And then on this one, I'm going to do the same thing. Just color in some of these petals just on the very end, giving a little more shadow and depth to those. That's good. Now I'm going to be using my Stampin' Dimensionals. But before I get to the point of putting those on there, I want to use my bone folder and do a little bit of curling on some of these where I feel like they would naturally have some shape. For example, these mums are going to have a rounded shape. Some of these petals may stick out towards you, but just be gentle when you do this so that you don't take a chance on ripping it. Okay, so there we have that. I'm just going to flip that over, and I am going to use a lot of dimensionals on here. So I'll be removing those dimensionals here shortly. I'm going to take this flower and gently fold some of these petals. Now I cut this one right here in between those because I wanted this one to curl out this way. And then I want those to curl the opposite way. So you can do your petals however you want to. And I'm going to use a dimensional on the back of this one. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to use 2. Now I'm going to put that down inside, and I'm going to turn it so that the mums are up here in the left-hand corner and the leaves are down here in the right-hand corner. Then take my other flower, and you'll want to turn it till you make sure that you have it lined up with the petals from the flower below, and then just stick that down. Now, if you feel like you need some more shadowing, as long as you don't stick that flower down too hard, you can always remove it and add more shadowing. I'm going to be using my Wink of Stella next, and any place that I feel like would have some highlights, which the stamped image already has some natural highlights, I'm just going to use my Wink of Stella in some of those areas. Alright, so here are all 3. The one that is very, very simple, the one that I did with the gray background, and then the one that I just demonstrated for you with the light background. So Carol, this is what I've come up with for you on the Shadow Box 3-dimensional Heartfelt Blooms project. I hope this is what you were looking for, and if you decide to make this for your friend, I hope that she loves it. And remember, you can change the colors up and make it anything that you want. I just went more with neutrals just because I prefer that myself. Now I'm going to have a printable instruction sheet for you over on my blog at wallastamping.com. There will be detailed instructions as well as a diagram on where to score, where to cut, and where to put your adhesive. While you're there, make sure you sign up for my newsletter. As a member of my Walla Stamping newsletter family, you'll get exclusive tutorials from me, and I'll keep you up to date on anything new coming out from Stampin' Up. I'd also love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. That way, anytime that I post a new tutorial, you're not going to miss it. And remember, if you're interested in becoming a part of the Walla Stampers team, send me an email, or you can reach out to me through the blog post on this project with any questions or any information that you would like to have. And there's also going to be links in the description box below to the supplies that I've used for this project. Those will be on the instruction sheet as well as my blog. So I hope that you have a great day and that this was a fun project for you. Thank you so much for spending time with me and allowing me to share it with you. And I will talk to you soon.